This is the worksheet that should go with sections 1.4 and 1.5, which are on adding and subtracting real numbers. You should have already read the first two handouts that I gave to you in class, and they're also posted here just above the video. If you need to print those out, you can do that. These are the actual rules that we use for adding and subtracting. Okay, and like I said on the other printed handout, it's really best if you just consider that you're combining numbers that have either positive or negative signs, but not that you're just adding or subtracting. Okay, these are the rules that I've just kind of shortened and given for you for combining numbers. First, you want to always eliminate double signs that are in front of a number. Okay, this is what's on the second handout that I gave you in class. This would be something, for example, if I had minus a negative 2. Well, if you're subtracting a negative, this means the opposite of negative 2, which would just be positive 2. So that would be something that you would change to be a plus 2 if you had double negatives. So we just say if you have double signs, eliminate those so that every number in your problem just has one sign in front of it. Okay, the second one is to add or subtract numbers with the same sign. You're going to add their absolute values. Use their common sign as the sign of the answer. And the third rule is to add or subtract numbers with different signs. You're going to subtract their absolute values, give the answer the sign of the number with the larger absolute value. Okay, hopefully as we work out these examples, you'll be able to make more sense of these rules. Okay, because these are really probably the most important ones that we'll talk about in the course, because from here on out we're always going to be dealing with positive and negative numbers. Okay, the first set of examples are combining numbers that have the same signs. Okay, so my first step when I look at number 1, I see negative 7 plus a negative 2. I have two signs in front of this 2, so I want to eliminate that. I would just want it to be negative 7 plus a negative 2. Adding a negative is the same thing as just having one negative sign. Okay, I can eliminate that plus sign in the middle. So this means I have negative 7 and negative 2. They're both negative. That means we add and keep their sign. So if I add the numbers together, that would be 9. Since they're both negative, my number is going to be negative. Okay, refer back to the first example that I gave you with the checking account. You write a check for 7, you write a check for 2. So total, you have withdrawn $9. Okay, that's why we would add, keep the negative. Okay, number 2, you have 10 minus a negative 3. So first thing is going to be to eliminate the double negatives. So this means the opposite of negative 3, which would just be plus 3. So I have a positive 10, a positive 3. Both positive means I'm going to add, keep the sign. So it would be a positive 13. Okay, number 3, we don't have any double signs to eliminate. Okay, we have a negative 2, and you just need to look at that as being a negative 4, but not negative 2 minus, excuse me, a negative 4, but just a negative 2 and a negative 4. They're both negative, so you add, which would be a 6, keep the sign that's common to both. So that would be negative 6. Okay, we're not always going to have just two numbers in our problems. So let's look at number 4. We have negative 3 plus a negative 4 minus 6. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of those double signs that are in front of my number 4. So I'm going to keep negative 3. plus a negative 4 is the same thing as just having a negative 4, and then I have a negative 6. Okay, so I have three numbers that I'm combining, and they're all negative. Okay, if you want to, you could just add them all, keep the sign. If it helps you, you can go left to right. Combine the first two. A negative 3 and a negative 4 would be a negative 7. Bring down your negative 6. Combine those two. So negative 7 and a negative 6, the signs are the same, so we add, which makes it 13, but keep the sign. Keep it negative. So my final answer here would be negative 13. Number 5, we don't have any double signs in front of a number. We just have negative 8, negative 4, negative 1. Okay, so again, we could do it just like number 4. We can go left to right. Negative 8 and negative 4 would be negative 12. Add, keep the sign, bring down my negative 1. Again, both negatives, so that means I'm going to add, keep the sign. So my answer here would be negative 13. Okay, so these are all examples of combining numbers that have the same signs. Okay, the second half of the handout is going to be combining numbers that have different signs. Okay, so as I look at number 1, we do not have any double signs to eliminate. This is a positive 15. If I don't see a sign in front, that means it's positive. So a positive 15 and a negative 7. The signs are different, so that means I subtract, which would be 8. Your answer is always going to be the same sign as the higher number. So higher number was 15, which is positive, so my answer is going to be positive, positive 8. Okay, number 2, you have negative 8 plus 12. So a negative 8 and a positive 12, if you look at it this way, the signs are different, which means we subtract. If I subtract those two numbers, that would give me 4. The higher number is the 12, which is a positive, which means my answer would be positive. Okay, think about this again in terms of money. If you write a check for $8, that means you're withdrawing 8, then you deposit 12, then of course you're going to be in the positive. Okay, so the higher number always tells you what sign that your answer is going to have. Alright, number 3, I have a negative 6 minus a negative 4. So right here we have double signs, very important. I'm going to keep negative 6 since it just had one sign in front of it. This means the opposite of negative 4, so that would be changed to positive 4. So I have negative 6 and a positive 4. The signs are different, so that means I subtract. If I subtract these two, that's going to give me a 2. Take the sign of the higher number. Okay, the higher absolute value number is the 6. So because it's negative, my answer is going to be negative. Okay, subtract, take the sign of the higher number, so that means the 2 is going to be negative. Okay, number 4, first thing I'm going to do is go through and eliminate my double signs. So I have a negative 16, that's going to stay, minus a negative 3 is going to be changed to plus 3, and plus a negative 11 would just be negative 11. Okay, we don't need that extra plus sign in there. Now on this problem, I'm just going to go left to right. So left to right, I have a negative 16 and a positive 3. Okay, the signs are different. That means I subtract. If I subtract 3 from 16, that's going to give me 13. And the sign would need to be negative. Okay, subtract, take the sign of the higher number, which is the 16, so that's going to be a negative 13. Then I bring down my negative 11. Okay, at this point I'm combining two numbers that have the same sign. They are both negative, so that means I will add. So if I add 13 and 11, that's going to give me 24. Keep the sign. Okay, so that's like if I'm saying I'm write a check for 13, I write a check for 11, total I've written checks for 24. Okay, so the signs are the same. I added, kept that sign. So my final answer would be negative 24.